All right, Elena, let's talk a little bit about tomatoes. And let's start with this. How do you choose a good tomato?
Every gardener has to start somewhere.
Okay.
You can find a few amounts in your big box stores. You can go to Lowe's, Walmart, etc. Today's gardener can also find a lot of new to them varieties online. There are many vendors. Years ago, you had to order 6 of a kind, and we all get these lovely seed catalogs at the beginning of the year.
Yes.
And they have the picture of the biggest, greatest, prettiest, tastiest
Sure do.
tomato on the very front. Unfortunately, like I said, years ago, you had to buy about 6 of a kind in order to try them, or you had to grow your own seeds. Today, there's a lot of vendors where you can mix and match, and anything that you can buy a seed for, you can also buy a single tomato plant for.
Okay.
Getting a variety like that is a whole lot better than ordering 50 of a kind, or 20 or 30 of a kind. Then you're committed to, if that wasn't really the latest, greatest tomato. Tomatoes love sun, love heat.
Oh, yeah.
And
we have plenty of that around here.
Yes.
No doubt.
So just about any tomato type that you're gonna find, you can grow in our area. Some prefer a little bit cooler, but I'm gonna show you today how you can actually get those to pollinate for you in the heat.
Okay.
But get the seed catalogs that come at the beginning of the year and look for something you want your early season, mid-season, late season that'll come in. That way you're getting your first tomato and you're getting all the way up to frost.
Right.
Pick some for production, some for just taste alone. And there's big ones, little ones, huge ones. There's blacks, purples, yellows, oranges, stripes. There's all different kinds of tomatoes, and most people haven't seen them because we don't have them offered in the stores that we're frequenting.
Okay.
Picked named cultivars. We don't get that a lot in the places that we often see them, but online you'll be able to pick a tomato by its named variety rather than just red beefsteak. Then if you like that tomato, plant 20 of them next year. But at least by trying different types, you can find the type that you like the best.
Okay.
You can find the type that another family member likes the best.
Makes sense. Okay. Now let's go to, how do you plant tomato? Now we know that sounds elementary, but we still need to know good techniques. So what's the best way to plant? Now, how do you plant a tomato?
Okay, we're going to imagine that we're planting in the ground.
We can do that. We can do that.
Okay. First, when you're planting the tomato plant, we want to make sure that we're planting at least half the stem in the ground.
Half the stem in the ground.
At least.
Okay, at least. All right.
If it was this tall, we might plant 2/3 of the stem under the ground.
Interesting. Okay.
When you're looking at the tomato plant, you're seeing a long stem. You'll sometimes hear not to plant leggy plants, but when I'm looking at the stem, I'm actually looking at the new roots. Let me explain. You're going to prune off the bottom, any of the branches on the bottom, because we don't need them. Okay. This part, I'm going to let the plant keep this foliage to sustain it, but this entire stem is going to become our new roots. These roots are going to be custom grown in the soil that I decided to plant them in, rather than what the vendor put as their soil. Okay. So they're custom grown in your ground.
In your ground, I got you.
Let's say we had it tilled. You just want to go about an inch or so below ground, few inches below ground. You don't have to dig to China.
Okay.
Okay? Just lay them slightly above the surface and lay them down. The sun will come along and they'll naturally just turn up. You might put a pillow, as I say, of like grass clippings or something to keep them out of the dirt while you're watering them. But you're just going to let the sun go on and turn it up naturally. You could cheat. You could lay them out in the grass ahead of time. In about 6 hours, they'll already have that arch for you.
Interesting.
But you want to put them like just below the surface level. Take the bottom of the cup off or the container. Break the roots up on the bottom.
Okay.
Just a little bit, not a whole lot. Tomato plants are very vigorous growers. They wouldn't need a whole lot of breaking up, maybe is what you would do a bush or a tree.
Right.
So don't disturb them too much. Now, we want to make sure, and I brought some Miracle Grow, or actually it's a generic of a water-soluble fertilizer. If you're gardening organically, you could use a fish emulsion or some other suitable alternate organic. But you cannot underestimate the amount of water to give them while you're transplanting them.
Okay.
As the stem is going to put out roots all along the stem, the new roots will come out. They need a lot of moisture. When you put them into a very dry dirt, like if you just tilled, the sun dried it out even more, it's going to begin to wick away the moisture from the stem.
Okay.
We want it to put out new roots, and we don't want that to harden off. So this trench method, laying them down, you want to go ahead and put your fertilizer water along the stem and down a little bit more of a divot for the plant roots. But go ahead and put your water down then. That's about it.
Okay, I think that's pretty interesting. Don't you think so, Mr. D? I see. Yeah. Not in approval. Now let's get to increasing your production in the heat. So how do we go about doing that?
Like I was saying, there's a few varieties that do not favor the south, that would favor a cooler climate. Which those are still great for us, especially if you're planting early, and we may still get a little bit of cool weather, and you want a tomato plant that will survive that. But in the heat, once our temperatures get 90 and above, you'll see your blossoms begin to drop.
Yeah, right.
Well, the stress, that could be stress from heat. If the plant's actually wilting, you need more water, but also that could be a sign that it was wilting, it was stress.
Okay.
If you never saw any signs of wilt, the blooms that you're seeing on the ground are probably just from, they never got pollinated and they were spent. They dried up, fell off, time ran out on them.
Okay.
And people aren't getting any fruit when it's that hot.
Okay.
When there are a few varieties like Heat Wave that are supposed to set at higher temps, but their higher temps are only like 96 degrees. You're only going to get a few of these heat-resistant varieties. You're still only talking about a few degrees that it'll set at higher fruit. Now, the pollen, if the textbook answer to this is that pollen is not as viable over 90 degrees due to the humidity and due to the heat itself. We cannot change the humidity and we cannot change the temps, but we can amp the pollination. The pollination on a tomato plant, the blossoms have both the male and female parts.
Okay.
All that has to be done for a proper pollination is the pollen has to fall within the flower to form fruit.
Okay.
This can be done with the wind, bees. Farmers taught me that you walk down the row and you shake your tomato plants. That's moving around. Another one that people do is they'll thump the blooms.
I know folks who do that.
Now, it's hot though, so we need to amp it up.
Okay.
We're going to imagine again
right.
that this is going to be a blossom stem where instead of each leaf coming out, we're going to have, let's say that these are all blooms on that stem. You take an electric toothbrush. Amp the wind, right? This is like the wind times 10 or the bumblebees times 10. And just put it on this blossom stem so that you're actually vibrating all these blooms at the same time. You don't have to put on each individual bloom. But I don't know how to do it on a stem, but we'll find out. That one leaf is just a blur of green. You can't see it. Now, if those were actually blossoms, you would just see a blur of yellow.
Like that.
Now, that's going to amp how much movement and how much pollination that you're going to have.
Wow.
And you will get fruit.
And you will get fruit.
You will get fruit. Now, I did this every other day for, 2 weeks, and I did it in the morning time. It was I didn't plant till mid-July, and I had about 80 plants planted, but 2/3 of them did not have fruit. At the end of 2 weeks, they were loaded with fruit. I'm not sure whether it matters at the time of day, but if
Yeah, I
it
was gonna
does
ask you
not
that.
work for
Okay.
you, go to the morning, every other day. I know it works. You will have fruit.
It's good.
So therefore, again, when you're looking at one of these pretty catalogs, you can order anything in it. You can order anything in it.
Okay. Let me ask you this right before we have to leave. How much water are we talking about your tomato plants need, you think?
Planting them, I would put at least a gallon. Maybe half a gallon in the hole, half a gallon on top to water them to get the air out and solid it up.
Okay.
After planting, you're going to have an ebb and flow from the sun drying out the dirt. Different dirt, different composition.
Yeah.
Mulching is great. Soaker hoses work great as far as watering.
Good.
In my garden, I'll do 10 minutes with a soaker hose every other day.
Okay.
In the summer, I do every day. In the dead heat, I do every other day or every day. You don't want them to dry out, but you want to have constant moisture.
So constant moisture is the key.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for being here today. That's some good information.
It is.
We appreciate that. Learned a lot. Thank you, Alainia.
It too.
All right.